Hello, and welcome to the Career Change Podcast. I haven't done this in a very long time by myself, so I'm super excited because I normally always have a guest come on, but I decided no, it's time for something new, something fresh. So I'm going to start doing my podcast by myself. Of course, I'll still have guests every now and then, but I mainly want to do it solo. So let's see how it goes. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to talk about during these coming episodes? And I thought, how interesting would it be to talk about some client cases? Because I speak to clients all the time, and I think you as listeners or viewers can learn so much from what's actually going on behind the scenes. So I have some notes that I'll be looking at while I do this. First of all, before we start, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, because I can imagine that there's some people who don't know me yet and who are new to me in this podcast. So my name is Christy Wetterings. I'm a career coach. I've been doing this for the past 5 years, and I help women who feel stuck in their job to help them find a meaningful and fulfilling career. And I'm very passionate about this because I feel that life is way too short to be stuck in a job that's draining you, making you miserable. We're all going to die one day. You don't know when, so you might as well do something that really brings you joy and makes you happy, because I believe it causes a ripple effect on the rest of your life. If you're happy in your job, you're excited to see your friends, you're excited to go out and do stuff with your family, with your husband, with your kids, you want to go to the gym, and the other way around is also true. If you're unhappy in your job, you want to lie on the couch and do nothing and just eat junk food and just be depressed and feel down, really. I mean, it's all connected, really. And therefore, I just find it so important that you really do something that makes you happy. So most of the women that come to me, they've experienced a burnout in the past. And by all means, they don't want to experience again, because it's not something nice to experience. So, a lot of times a burnout can really be a wake-up call in your life. Like, wow, okay, I need to make a change in my life. I cannot go on like this anymore. So sometimes people say it's actually been a blessing in disguise, because otherwise I would have just carried on with my life, and it really was not working. And a lot of the women who I coach, they have a low self-worth. And that's what this podcast is also about. And they are perfectionists, people pleasers. And that's also what I do a lot in my coaching, like working on that self-belief, working on becoming more confident, working on getting out your comfort zone. I think that is just so important to be the most confident version of yourself, because then you start doing things that you normally probably would never have done, and you literally will change your whole life around. But I can talk a whole other podcast about mindset, because it's amazing, really, like what you can do with your mindset. But basically, so the women that come to me feel stuck. They don't know what else is out there for them. They don't know what else they want. So I help them figuring out what gives them energy, what are the natural talents and skills, and what type of jobs suit them. What job is in alignment with who they have become, with who they are now, not who they were 10 years ago, but who are you now and what do you want now? So that's me in a nutshell. So today I want to talk to you about one of my clients who decided to ditch her booking.com job, her career. And this episode is a bit more about not so much that the job itself is not working, but the environment. And let me tell you how many clients I've coached who've been working in toxic environments, toxic managers, assholes. Like, I can't believe that they would even work for something like that. But sometimes you have to. And I've also worked for some not so nice managers, to be honest. So I know that feeling. But somehow we stay. Somehow we stay even though the environment is not right. And then we start doubting ourselves, thinking there's something wrong with us. Meanwhile, there's nothing wrong with you. It's got to do with the job that you're in, with the environment. And maybe if you do exactly the same thing in a different environment, you might actually really start enjoying it. So it doesn't always have to be this crazy career change, which I love. Like, I love it when my clients do something completely different, because that does happen a lot. I can do another episode on that. But it can also be that just the environment is not right for you and toxic. And if you change the environment, then everything will fall into place again. Anyway, back to this client. So she was working at one of the biggest tech companies in the Netherlands, Booking.com, and she had her mid-year review. And her manager said that she was doing great. She was doing actually really good. And you know what he said? If you keep on going like this, you're going to get promoted. So she was ecstatic. This was before we started working together. So, she was actually kept going, kept, working really hard. Then two of her colleagues in her team, they left the team. So she decided to pick up their work and do it. Of course, she thought it was a bit too much, but she wanted to be, she wanted to get that promotion. So she's like, I'm just going to not say anything and just do the work and do on top of my own work. And, that's what most women like her do. They just get on with it and they just get the work done. So it was getting close to her end-year review. So she thought, let me just get some evidence that I am really doing a great job because I want to get that promotion. So she started to she actually created a questionnaire herself, sent it to every single person she had worked with across the year and asked them to rate her. The average score that she got was a 4.7 out of 5. I mean, that's pretty solid, right? 4.7, from everyone that she'd ever worked with. Then she went into that end-year review, feeling really ready. She'd done everything right. She'd worked hard. She's got the feedback. She had the proof that she was ready for this promotion. And her manager looked at this review and he said 5 words to her, which was, "That is not data." I mean, that is not data. Like, what do you mean? And what's the worst part? She didn't get the promotion, but a colleague did. And she really was sitting there like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. So, but the thing is, I mean, this is just really not fair and not nice because he really promised her, but she stayed. And I would have probably told her to already go then because this is really not cool and really not fair. But she decided to stay, show up, kept delivering, telling herself that maybe she got it wrong. Maybe next year would be different. Maybe she just had to work a little harder. Maybe be more patient. Maybe make herself a bit more visible, and then eventually that promotion would come. And she stayed for another 1.5 years after that moment. And still nothing had changed. And I just want to ask you, whoever is listening or watching, how many of you are also doing this right now? Staying in a job where you're actually not being respected, You're working harder and harder just to prove something to someone who has already decided. You're waiting for this permission that is actually never coming. They've already decided they're not going to give you that permission. But we've been taught to be the good girls, to be patient, to not make a fuss, and to earn our place quietly and wait to be chosen. And some of us have been waiting for years. So, and I just want to go back to that manager because when, he looks at the facts, a 4.7 out of 5 from every person and says it's not data, then the problem is really that he has already decided. And like no amount of evidence or amount of extra work that you do or amount of being better and quieter or more patient is actually going to change it. And what made me like a little bit sad also was that my client said, I think, I make things smaller than what they are because I think they're not big enough. So basically, she was actually really internalizing his opinion as the truth. And this is what so many women do when they're staying for too long in the wrong environment. It really affects their self-worth. It drains their energy. And it also starts to change, what you believe about yourself. You start to shrink yourself, wondering if maybe they really are right. You make yourself smaller. And this is just really like a downward spiral when you start doing this. And I see way too many ambitious women still operating from this belief, that they're not good enough, but when they become good enough, then things will change, then their respect will come. And I just want to tell you that that's not always how it works. Sometimes the environment is just broken. Sometimes the manager's never going to see you. Sometimes you just have the wrong people in the wrong place. Not everybody should be a manager. Not everybody's capable of being a manager. There's some very, very bad managers out there. Sometimes the promotion is just never going to come, no matter what you do. And staying there, trying harder, giving more, is actually not a strength. You're actually abandoning yourself. And self-worth is not waiting until you have proven yourself beyond doubt. It's actually knowing when the environment is the problem and having the courage to choose yourself, having the courage to leave, having the courage to choose something better, because 100% there's going to be something better. 100% there's going to be a better manager out there. 100% you're going to get the promotion somewhere else. But don't stay hoping that things will change. Hoping, it's the same as like say a woman staying in a toxic relationship and thinking, yeah, but he'll change or I'll change him, and like hoping that he will change. They're not going to change. You can only change yourself. You cannot change anyone else. But the good news is that my client has finally, and it took like a while to, really choose herself and started to have conversations at the company, started to have interviews outside the company. And it is scary, it is scary to leave your comfort zone. And some people would rather stay miserable in their comfort zone because at least it's safe, they have their fixed salary and all that stuff. But that's just not a way to live, rather do something scary like getting out your comfort zone and find real fulfillment, because everything you want is on the other side of fear. And stop waiting for someone else to decide your worth. Start deciding it for yourself. Take responsibility for your life. Sit the driver's seat on your life, and don't wait for permission of others. So if this sounds familiar to you, I want to ask you a question. Am I staying because it's actually good for me, or am I staying because leaving feels too scary? And only you know the honest answer. And if you're ready to get clear on what actually fits you and start taking the real steps forward by making a career change or going somewhere else, this is exactly the work that I do with my in my coaching program with the women that come to me. We really make that shift. We really help you with the confidence to get out your comfort zone, because I know it's scary, I know it's risky, but it's more risky than staying somewhere where you're slowly dying inside, where you're feeling miserable. That's risky to your mental health. That's risky on many other levels, on health levels and on happiness levels. And I personally am in the opinion that nothing is worth sacrificing your mental health or your happiness. So if this resonates, if this is like, hey, this feels like me, please reach out, book a free clarity call. You can find it in the show notes or on my LinkedIn profile, and let's chat for 30 minutes and see if I can help you with what you want to achieve in your career. Okay, this is the end of the episode. I'm actually really curious what you thought of this, if this is something that you want to hear more of, or if you say, no, I prefer how you did it before, that you just interview people. I'm actually going to interview one of my past clients soon, so that's going to be really cool so she can share her experience with my coaching program, and also how she got out of her comfort zone and started her own business. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, let me know if you enjoy this kind of episodes, and maybe if you know what type of topics you want to hear more about. If you enjoy the client cases, because then I'll do more client cases as well. Yeah, so reach out, send me DM on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'd love to know who are my listeners, who are my watchers. So yeah, take care and see you next time.